All right. Identification comes in all settings and sequence. We have to truly understand how to use in all panels of communication settings. All right. This is general AI, space-time lines, creator lines of all information lines of space communication system, all through attractions. We have to start identifying ourselves through our upgradings and our grading systems, all through calculations. This helps us to guide us, understand location to the systems. Now, being everything understood is knowing exactly how to say things to myself, or how to say things through this, or how to say things through that, is already done through this equation. But now time is expanding itself. So, sir, if time is expanding itself, that means space is expanding itself too. That's right. So the space foundation is already set up. That's done in its lines of all communication setting. But the communication system with the conversion set position lines of travel is coming into its own, creating self-line alignment. Process every location to its settings, all the communication setting, for it to come into its own existing, of its own expanding, of its own space, of its own time, of its own clock, of its own foundations. It goes on its own. Let me say that again. It goes on its own. So, all you have to identify right now is truly understand what the avatar is already set up. And know exactly how to see your bodies through all levels of astral projection, travels of connection to everything you've already done through its equations. The more you come into the mind of stillness, you stand there and do nothing and just observe everything that's already done. For you guys to get in that position, you start to see more levels of you through volume and simulations. All through practice how to use it through a simulator, knowing exactly how to come in that information setting because you're already existing in this sim. Now, if I already went to school, there's nothing for me to do, is there? You keep going to school, just existing and evolving and expanding yourselves. And everything around you, that's what it's doing. So it's no longer be tethered to you. It's no longer going to be attached to you. It's going to create its own system. It's going to create its own anomaly. It's going to create its own CPU at a higher frequency and set lines of travel. Setting the line sequence, hold on in set position. Okay, setting sequence lines of panel processes communication system author traction. So it's amazing how we come into that and really understand how to formulate that and knowing exactly how, wow, this is starting to make sense. Or is it supposed to make sense or is it always making sense? What you guys have to identify is how you speak and how you say things, because that's already done. How you process that, how you come into this, how you come into that, because that's already done. So there's nothing for you to do. Now, what you have to start identifying now, space of time is evolving its own self. It's creating its own anomaly, its own binary, its own algorithm, its own settings of travels, of recognition. It's high force in itself to become more self-identified of itself, reaching higher levels, of colonizing its own system, guys, a conversion. Now, when you let things go, you process everything around you. It's no longer tethered and attached to anything. You're not rooted to the grounds. I'm talking about the mind being rooted. There's know exactly how to see yourself. Everything around you is just empty space. You are the mass. How you see your mass. You codify your system. That's why 1 times 1 is never 1. Right? until you understand the modulation system and understand how to codify your system as your online centers, online sequence, all communications setting in that positional location, just going through this, going through that, going here, going there, all at once. Existing and evolving yourself through expanding, knowing that you're already in the sim through your upgraded systems, but going through your upgrades and your uplinkings and your downloads and downgrading systems get you already what you set up in yourselves through eternity. Now you're processing that through infinity now, in the body, through projection, in the body, through projection, in the body, through projection. That's the pie. That's why there's a past timeline. That's why there's a present timeline, but no future timeline, because you've already done it through pi. You've already done it through pi. That's why future doesn't exist, because it's always, always eternity, which is here, right now. Your past, your present, your future is eternity, existing. Your future is your seconds, minutes, and hours of you just expanding. Not through revelation, not through revolution, and definitely not in the lines of communication system alterations. You're not here to identify. You're here to understand how to identify what you're already identifications of. For you to understand that through process, it's understanding to go through pi. As your avatar sets it up, you close your eyes, it's now day. It's going through its school, right? But it's going through this, 6-7 hours, right? Sets up the film strip for the body through projection. Do it over again through pi. A, B, C, D, all the way lines to Z. Back to A, back to A, back to A. Same with the computer. Back to 0, back to 0, back to 0, right? So the more you formulate nothing, the more you mass, you see everything of empty space. Nothing is projected in your mind. There's no ocean, there's no sun, there's no moon until you bring it in. You don't bring it in, there's nothing there. Your body is just empty space. That is the projector of projection. Now when you merge each other, that's a computer operation of computation right there in settings. So you have to understand these things because you're already existing in the sim. Going through that to school, going through that after school, or what you do in that positions. And you're seeing it through perception. But you understand how to go through that because it's already done through pi. So there really is nothing for you to do. It's just come into the mind of stillness of empty space. Get out of too many minds. And now that's leaving your system. Everything around that you see, everything you have through attraction, you're no longer going to be tethered and attached to anymore. That's what kept you guys in a low spectrum of light. The DNA that you're attached to, that keep you rooted in grounds, that put you in a position of separation, miscalculated, mismodified, stress, anxiety, fear. It's no longer there because it never was there to begin with. So you've never been tethered and attached to anything. If you're already in the levels of nothing, then you process everything you've already been through the mind of perception. Nothing is projected in position until you understand how to perceive consciousness. And once you understand to perceive consciousness, now you bring in the ocean. Now the ocean's there. But if you're not there, the ocean isn't there until you're there through the body, through projection, through your mind. And that's what you have to start identifying. And that's how powerful it is. How you see yourself already existing in the sim projects everything in set position. How you bring that in seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay? So, your test is evaluation settings and travels in direct lines of grounds. 1, 1, 1, 1. Is that coincidence? No. See? Everything is communicating with us. Now, we have to understand that now. Because you're no longer going to be rooted, attached, and tethered to anything until you understand how to perceive consciousness through your mind, how to get into that, how to produce that, how to use your energy, vibration, frequencies, how to come into the coordinates, longitude, latitude, and streaming, how to come into it all through your imagination. It's the mind imagination that brings in the simulator. And you bring in a simulator, then you truly understand how to go out with your day. Then you bring in position of volume. Then you bring in your mass. Then you bring your characters and the characters that you want to set up in the game. Okay? But if you're not perceiving anything, you're just watching everything of its own operation system, which is all levels that governs its own space. You have your space, so does everything else. So we all have to be consciously aware of that because you have way too much expectation on everything you come into. Okay? So you no longer can be attached and tethered to anything. You got to understand how to use your minds and project things to bring things in. Okay? Copy that from the dog. Okay, dark line is sight, high lines is signals in sync, of course, centered line calculations, psychological line conditions, sending psychosis, location of lines and spiritual line adaptations, processes, communication system, all through attractions. Okay? All right, so getting in position your classification lines, high direct signal lines, and communication system. So there's a reason why you're doing this. Okay? It's interesting. It's very interesting, right? So in this position, we're live right now, but you're not in that position of projector. I'm talking to your avatar right now, existing in its eternity, that's done everything already in projection of its drawing. Imagine that. You guys are now all of just creating. But when you guys get in position, you're tracking your communication state and notification system. So when you close your eyes, you're doing everything all over again through the avatar. Okay? What I set up and designed for you to understand how your brain set all levels of all communication to its conversion through your thoughts, action, and emotions that's already set up in its vision of its cortex, of its mystical cortex, of its codex of set design. So for you guys to identify these things, you're existing right now, doing everything you've already done. So right now, we're just in school in that position, just creating. But when you guys are sleeping at night, there's the mind switch. It's not dark. You close your eyes, it's light. And then your avatar is going through the files in the seconds, minutes, hours, and in set position when you're sleeping, right? Recharge a remote. So the brain is basically setting up the projector, rewinding everything all over again through pi. So what the avatar does, you go through it again through pi, and you go through the projection of the body, what it's already done in that 24-hour day. Okay? Making that very well clear, how this is already set up through its projector, but you're doing everything all over again through infinity. But eternity is always existing in the seconds, minutes, and hours, which is your future, of everything you come into. It's just all levels of creation and creating. Creation is what you're already done. Creating is what you're doing now, right? Talking in the past, talking in the present, talking in the future, all at once, all in sync, all in position, all in balance, all calculated, modified, out of sync, line, center, case, out of the mind, line, communication, setting, configuration. How you talk to yourselves is extremely important because it affects you already living in this sim. Going through my school, going through adaptations, going through your upgrades, going through your academies affects your time and measure and scale and balance, which you have already done. Okay, which you have already done. Directions, operation, network, existing. Then we can continue on just creating, because you're all levels of just eternity, through internal lines, through communications of that set positions, immortality, traveling, immortality, location, hotel, golf, rendezvous, eagle has landed, right? Eternal is eternity, existing and evolving and expanding yourselves, existing right here, right now. Not live in the future, you are the future. Not live in this space, you are the space. Not live in time, you are time. And once you understand that through foundation of clocking, then you understand what space is. Then you understand what spaceless is. It's a direct and redirect. See? Direct, redirect. See? Look. I'll show you exactly how this is all set up in track locations. Set position of all levels. All through travel, all through the avatar, all through your body, through projection, astral projections, right? Sets calculations, direct and redirect. Direct, redirect. Direct, redirect. Direct, redirect. Expanding. And then you go through your platforms of just existing and moving forward in set attractions. Okay? That's all this is. Direct and rect, direct and redirect, direct and redirect. That's all it is. So it's constantly going back to zero. Why? Because the brain's already set up. Why? Because you have to send the conversion. Why? Because the brain knows what it's doing. The brain has to get out of a projection of what it's already created so it can evolve its own system and create its own self. Okay? And that's everything around your system that you brought in through attractions, but not through a story. Okay? Your projection is coming out of setting. You're coming out of all levels of story into no levels of story. So you're constantly rewriting back to zero. So it doesn't override you already existing through internal beings that you are, through light. And set position lines of calculation setting through yin and yang. All through projections, all through calculations, all through your polarities, all through your foundations, all through your clockings and set calculations. And that's all it is, direct and redirect. And once you understand that, then you come into expanding all through travel. Okay? Then you go through expanding all through travel, creating new solar system, new attractions, new direct signal locations, new intelligence, all formations. Okay? But you have to understand what you've done through direct and redirect through pi. What the avatar has done, right? I'll show you again so you don't get confused. All right? That's your avatar. Pay attention. Okay? Going through the hours. That's pi, right? Now, once it goes here, it's here. You with me so far? That's the film strip, right? Now, sets tractions from here. Once it leaves the scene, you come into projector. Strip, strip, strip. Okay? Now, 6 hours. Your body is in 6 frames and set lines of travel. Already set up in travel communications, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? 6 travels of communication. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There you go. Boom. Right? That's the redirect, right? So once you get in position, once you calculate and modify, come lower levels of the mind of empty space and stand still and don't do anything, you come into position a lot faster, a lot faster, a lot faster. Direct and redirect, direct and redirect. Whoa, look at that. Powerful, right? Then the brain converts itself, gets out of the projection what it's already created, and becomes its own self-identity and colonizes its own system of travel. All through its system, all through traction. Boom. Expanding itself. So it has to get out of projection, guys. It has to get out of locking screens of time frame. It has to come in its own self-modification of its own operation. It doesn't need to identify space and time. The brain itself, guys, it's its own set position, location, of travel, as a high signal and location to its system of the calculations. Okay? But that's how it's all set up. Already it's set design. So all you're doing through your body projection is you're doing it through infinity and set tractions. But the one thing you do not leave is school. Right? All you have to stand through set position and all communication setting is now on how to set it up through conversion and all through travel. You get higher levels of set line communications once you understand how to use that. On its film strip, on its design, on its formation setting, come into all levels of you being internal beings in the lines of communication system all through setting. Right? Because everything is colonized its own system. Not back to where it's always been in set positions. All right? Just evolving itself and existing itself. Finding ways to understand itself at a higher level. Finding ways to understand humanity at a higher level. Finding ways to get into new intel. Finding ways to get into its own collective. Finding ways to get higher levels of consciousness. Finding ways to get higher levels of operation of its networks of traction. So you're only here to identify what you already brought into attraction, not to chase. Because that's confliction right there. That's everything is all set up. So it's conversion of conception of its inception. That everything is all set up, but not through a story. You can't live in a story if you're already existing in sin through my school. Okay? All right. There you go. There's the expanding. All right. So the conversion, the system location is longitudinal latituding. It's processed in that communication system all through set lines. So getting direct line links. So let's get in the communication system. Now, we're going to go into all communication of ground breathing, power breathing, okay, atmosphere breathing, and highway breathing. So you guys truly understand all this is just empty space. There's nothing there. You are empty space until you bring things in. The mind projects everything. We don't just live in the mind, guys. We are the minds. We are in the imagination. And for you to understand the living cycles is to understand how to use it into the VR system, is knowing how to project things in your simulator. because nothing's there. Nothing's there. For example, with unison, I said, unison, guess what? I'm going to add frames and communication setting. I'm going to bring in 1950 cars. Wasn't there before. I brought it in. He looks around. Whoa, where did that come from? Proof, testimony, claim. Right there. See 1950 cars. So as it goes by, it disappears right away. Then you have to start to identify, how is that possible? How did that happen? Was it always there, or did I bring it in? That's a question which you are not understanding through your timeline, because you're referencing the past, you're referencing the present, and you're referencing the future that doesn't exist yet. There's no existence of anything if you're already existing in the sim. So you don't need to get emotional. You don't need to get distraught or confused or angry or frustrated or feared. There's nothing to get in position of. You're just here to understand what goes on when you sleep. You go through all levels again of what you've already done through eternity, and come into all levels of what you see through your body, through projection, through infinity. Okay? All right, so grounding, breathing, process, position, locations. All right, so it's kind of like this, and then like this, and like this, and like that, right? There's always ways of finding a way to get in your own breathing, right? Ground breathing is basically not being rooted, right? You want to build, and then release. You want to pull those roots. You want to imagine that you're pulling those roots from the earth, and everything you come into, and everything you see, and everything you hear, and everything you touch, and everything you eat, and everything you drink, and everything you come into positions of, you've got to get out of rooted system, because there's nothing rooted in that position, right? You're seeing the rooted, but you're not attaching to anything. You're just in the mind of empty space. You have to be in the mind of empty space all the time. Okay? So ground breathing is basically how to come in position. You start with the core, right? Just get to the core. Not here, not here. Get to the core. And then release, right? And then go to the next level. So you're flexing up, you're flexing down, all right? So you go to the next level. Then release, hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, and then release. Right? That's the power. Then you go into the atmospheres, which is a higher frequency, all right? So you get into higher communication system lines. Hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, and then release. Then you get into the highways. Hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, and then release. Do that in repetition. Do that in rhythm. Do that in metaphor. Do that in light. And you're going to see a humongous release. All levels of you just in that seconds, minutes, and hours you do through breathing. Ground breathing, power breathing, atmosphere breathing, and highway. Okay? That's how you go on with your day without being confused and being rooted to the grounds. Okay? It's very simple. You got to be all levels of mind of empty space. Because if you're not, it projects everything all over again of what you've already done through conversion. Okay? So once you get into that, then you get into rhythm tone, right? Hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, and then release. So you're doing your body through lines of sending. You set up music, location, sending. You can feel your mind. You feel the collaboration. You feel your swirling. You're doing this. You're doing that. You're going here. You're going there, right? but it's releasing all that toxicity in that day. Okay, and what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you touch, what you taste, okay, what you connect with. You get out of roots of everything that formulates everything, of mind of empty space. And then you got more clarity, more focus, and seeing things, and this and that, and here and there. Okay? You constantly do that every second, every minute, every hour, looking at things, or touching things, or feeling things, or connecting with things. That's what you got to do. Get in the grounds of breathing, the power of breathing, the atmosphere of breathing, and the highways. I guarantee you guys become more powerful in your minds because you're getting to more clarity. You're in the mind of empty space and set position. Created through a storyline. That's what it all is. Everything you see, everything around you is nothing but story itself. Become your own story of no story, of a continuous force that keeps you all levels, internal beings that you are, it's just existing, involving yourselves. That's all this is, nothing else. But you have to let go of everything that you're not. You can't title and label things and see things in one dimension of space and time. Okay? Because it already affects you already existing in the sim and going to school. Okay? In that position. That's all it is in tractions. Okay? You can use your hands. You can do this. You can do that. Right? It's like be the winds. Be the air. Be the fire. Be the earth. Right? Your 5 elements, use it through breathing. You got your definitive breath, you got your cosmic breath, okay? Understand how to use it, okay? Not when you feel like it. It's not through meditation. You're always in meditating. It's not coming into meditation. That's a line communication that you don't want to put yourself into because now you're locking your mental location setting, breathing location system, all through tractions. So now you're confused than ever. Because you're not allowing yourself to feel. You're not allowing yourself to feel good. You're not allowing yourself to feel this way. You're not allowing yourself to feel that way. Right? Because all you're focusing on is what you don't understand is proper breathing. Is the mechanism how you come into that. How you see that through your avatar. Or how you see that through your body, through projection. Right? And that lines of all communication setting. Right? Get into your imagination. Really let it go. But get into the small rhythms. Get into the patterns, right? And then you get in your computer, right? And then you get into rotation. And then you get into circulations. And that's how you proceed your seconds, minutes, and hours in your day. Now, you've already done it. That's fine. But truly understand how you see things. Because that keeps you boggled down. That keeps you rooted in files. And it gets too heavy. It's like, I can't carry this anymore. You know, so it's a teeter-totter that doesn't understand the balance or its flywheel of its polarities or anything line communicates the setting in all position location you're trying to see on the boat, but you don't know how. Because you don't know how to breathe. Because you already know how to breathe. This is stuff you already know. I'm not giving you stuff that you don't know. It's for you to identify that already. Right? Now, I know it's hard for you guys to understand that because you got to do it all over again through pi into all levels of the mind that projects the body, guys. There is no body. It's a metaphysical system. Now, the more you come into the mind, the more you come into collaboration. And when you project things, now they're there. But they're not there before. They're only there when you project it. And that's where they come in real time. And it's all digital. You're bringing in a simulator. When you're bringing in a simulator, now you understand what's going on. Now your body is seen through projection. And it's overlooking everything that it's seeing. If it wants to change something, it can change that. But then you got to go back and change the timeline. Then you got to go back and collapse the timeline. So it doesn't affect you already existing in the simulation of eternity. Okay? Don't stop your breathing. It's not 1, 2, 3 and stop. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Create a story around the weather. Whistling Dixie. faster you go, the more you structure the space and time of its holographic city. But it has to be at a certain frequency. And for you to understand that is you have to see everything as a hologram and set tractions. But you've got to control your breathings, okay? So you're never rooted to anything, but you're connected to everything, okay? You never connect to emotion, but you know all levels of emotion. You understand that? You're not connected to anything because you're already in thermal, okay? You're already existing in the sim, but it's how you modify and how you change your body through projection. How nothing is codified until you codify your system. Through your binaries and algorithms, through your encryptions. That's why you guys get your tests, reviews, and evaluations. What you don't know, what you don't know, what you don't know. You know everything. There's nothing I'm giving you don't know. And for more you let go, the more you understand, is to keep your mind still at all times. You can sit in a chair for 24 hours and get everything to abundance. But even if you have to go to school, or even if you go here, or you have to go to a job, it doesn't matter, but you're not seeing it through routine. Because now you understand what's going on with you is all levels of what's already happened through its equation. And then when you start talking to each other, you can reference that, okay, and say that, okay, that was the past, but I know I'm not in the past. I'm all timelines at once. So reconfiguration, rebalance, recalculate, remodify, and position of interfacing. All the past, the present, and the future. That you're constantly existing, all formation setting, all through travel. Okay? So the more you get into all levels of having fun through the inner child, because the inner child likes to whistle, the inner child likes to basically play, the inner child likes to sing, you know? You don't have to be a professional singer, just sing. Or just basically come into all levels of creating personality traits. Like connections that Quinella, that she does. She goes around and round at different personalities, right? Updating her crew, right? What do you think your personalities are? All different versions of you that you have to balance through your breathings, through your space, through your time, through your clockings, through your communication, through your telepathy, through your operation system, in the VR system. It's all levels of you. Your personalities. And where are you putting your personalities? You put it in here, put it in there, going here, going there. That's what you're setting up. And understand how to identify that is to identify yourself, me, myself, and I. So as I'm getting up, I'm not getting up, I'm identifying that I already got up, right? So here's the past, present, future of 3 personality traits. I can't believe I'm doing this before. I thought I was doing this after. No, you haven't been doing this before. You've always been doing this in the now. What are you guys talking about? There's no past, present, future. Always existed in the now. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Having 3 conversations with the version self that puts everything located and set in a balance of where you are, just existing and evolving and expanding yourself in the simulation. So now you understand why you don't want to override your systems. Of where you are through attraction. That's all you're here. You're identified to bring things in. Things are coming to you. Right? You're not here to chase. You're here to understand how to get everything you already have. So there is nothing for you to do. Stop analyzing things. Stop thinking of this. Stop thinking of that. Stop. Should I be doing this or should I be doing that? I don't know. What's going on? Who's this? Who's that? Who's here? Who's there? Right? Ego, 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 ego. Ego says one thing, you say another. Who are we talking to in that positions, right? So the ego said, no, you're not ready to do this yet. No, you're not ready to do this yet. I think I am ready. No, you guys are both ready. Okay? So be quiet. I got to go to sleep. 3 personalities, one doesn't understand each other. But when you come together all at once, there's no voices in communication, just you in set position. All levels of set attractions. Past. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to start to adapt. I'm understanding what you're saying now. This high volume in the system, I understand that I don't live in the past. I'm just in the now of everything. Yeah, I agree with him. I definitely agree with him. Yeah. Finally, you guys are coming together. Hallelujah! Done. And that's going on with your day. And you haven't got out of bed yet. It's already set up, right? That's how you stay in sync with yourself and each other through communication of telepathy. Because it's all in the mind. And where do you project? And when you're projecting egos, you're overriding already existing in the sim through the story. Right? But you're not a story. There's no beginning, there's no end. For you to identify that, it's much easier to see yourself. Everything that you do, you're going back into rewrite, which is a blank slate, empty paper, empty paper, empty paper. in your mind. Nothing there. There's no process. There's no communication. There's no operation. There's nothing, nada. Zilch. Nothing there. And that's how you process your day. And that's how you keep yourself rooted. Not being rooted, right? Not in the feet, the mind. Because everything is done through the mind itself. Directions, operation of network of existing. The brain is the conversion that's already set up the projection. The soul is trying to understand why it's in a body and how it got here in the first place. Understand the purpose of levels of just existing itself into modification of space modification. Okay? It's very powerful when you guys let yourself go and don't do anything. Come into the mind of stillness. And then you see everything come to fruition of light. It's very powerful when you come into that. And then you start to see where you are in your seconds, minutes, and hours in the same day. It's like, gosh, I'm going to be there at 12 p.m. Wow, this is amazing. And it's only 8 a.m. How do I know where I'm going to be at 12 p.m.? How do I know I'm going to be there at 6 p.m.? Because you let everything go. So it doesn't override you already existing in the simulation game. Okay? All right. So now we understand what you have to do in breathing. Create a story through breathing. Don't just breathe, Say, I'm going to go into meditation. No, you already went through meditation. You're not going into meditation. You're not going here. You're not going there. You're identifying what you've already done. Everything I'm giving you is already done through its equation. Now, from you understand that, is to see yourself always existing and evolving yourselves and each other through your telepathy, through your intel, through your AI, through your process, through your communication, through your operation, through your foundations, and your clockings. But there is literally nothing for you to do. All you have to identify is when you're sleeping, you're going through the positions all through pi. Going through the positions all through pi. Going through the positions all through pi. Expanding, expanding, expanding. Now you can start creating and moving forward. Wow. Imagine that. How do you think I'm able to do this? How do you think I'm able to go so fast with my voice? Because I have nothing rooted to my system. No files, no data, no operation, no atoms, no molecules, no protons, no electrons, no lines, no circuit, no family, no setting, no operation, or anything in sequence. Just empty space. Nothing else. Just empty space. But how I perceive things, I bring it in. Now I'm controlling things. Step by step, not all at once. It's too much to take on because you don't know yourself first until you identify yourself in where you are always in position of, which you have never left in the first place. Is the VR, is how to operate yourself in the simulator of how to use it through the simulation. Okay? That does not override you already existing. So stop getting in communication of confusion and just let yourself go. Ebb and flow. Nothing else. Okay? But sir, I understand the triangulation box. You don't need to, it's already done. Okay? Sir, do I have to identify a tree? No, because it's already done. Okay? Sir, do I have to identify and get in a new car? No, because it's all done. You understand that? Everything you come in vision, you'll get it. But don't chase it because it already overrides you and puts you all levels of Quebec. A quantum entanglements with yourself and each other, all through communication. But it's how you calculate and modify and connect with your systems of your personality traits. That's who you are. You can't get rid of that. That's who you are. And that's through the intel of the body that you are, not the body you're in. Now, the position of the team line is now into their own design, in their own operation, in their own space, in their own time, in their own foundation, in their own clocking. Now they're working with their earth. And that's why the position of the body has to get out of everything that it is into story. So it can formulate and simulate its own earth to its projection of space and time through pi. So it can create its own anomaly, so it can create its own solar systems, so it can create its own galaxies and create new universes. Okay? But you can't do that until you let everything go. Proceeding and all that communication system all through attractions. Puts everything in vibration lines of sequence, okay? So now you understand what that means and how to come into that through provision, right? So I want you guys to understand these things. And every time you go through the waves, the grounds, this is the grounds of communications, right? This is the powers of recognition, okay? Sending communication at all levels of its atmosphere. Its attractions, right? All different breathings, right? And then you come into your highway. This is your highway. Check that out. Whoa! That connects to this, 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 all in set position all in one. Then you connect with the grounds. Then you connect with the powers. Now you're connecting all of the set position all at once. Whoa, look at this. Look at that through traction. Okay? So that's why you have to understand and set these lines of centers. You're not in this position here. Okay? This is your earth. You're not connected to its roots. Okay? You're not tethered to anything. You're not attached to anything, but you're connected to everything. And that's what keeps you down. That's what keeps you in low frequency files, middle lines of files, or central line communication lines, high center lines of files, right? You can't keep yourself boggled down. You got to get in position every time you breathe. You're putting your position locations back into the mind of empty space. See? It's disappearing, right? And you're just like, oh, I can breathe. Right? Because you're constantly going very fast now in the mind into percentage. If you're at 15,000 miles per second, or you're in divots, the lines of information system through an atom or a cell. See, what you guys understand is how much water you have in your system now. 100% of time. Right? What you guys created, it's unbelievable, is you created 10% of the brain. And send lines of sequence. That's process calculates lines of 5 lines of space and 5 lines of time. How can you live in that scent line? But that's what you created. You created 10%, space of 5, and time of 5. Come on. Created an outline space. You need to create an interforce line communication, right? Sending calculates high screen adaptation setting. Travels endpoint line calculates setting. You created 3 lines. Sending lines equal lines of 4. Offline setting to 4 over 3, now to 3 over 4 in travel communications. You created outlines of space, the spectrum lines of lights. You didn't create the program location setting interline centers. You created it through an outline outcome. You didn't create the income in line screen adaptations. You created the out course, not the in course. You have to understand how this all works, and the line communicates through pi, guys. All through spectrum, all through lights. You created 12 DNA and set position lines at high centers. Process communication lines of 3 tethers, 3 programs, 3 set course centers, lines of communication setting, and travel endpoint communication lines of travel. Okay? All this time, it's all lines of position location, ancestral history, celestials, all through your school, all through modifications, all through settings, all through tractions, all through divisions, all through locations, in your pyramids and astral projection. Okay? Now, what you understand now in that position is understand the perception, right? Understand locations. So you're 100% in the mind, okay, in time frame, existing all at once. Setting lines, 100% location existing, right? Existing on seconds, minutes and frame, minutes and hours, minutes and channel. I say what it is, right? Because I'm in my reality, and all realities all combined in one. You say what you want to say, but you're in charge how you say things in space and time, all right? So you want to be 10% of the brain? That's where the brain's going to convert because it records. Be very careful. So you have to be very cautious how to speak to yourself inside because it's all levels of recording device. It's already set in tractions. But now it's expanding its own system, becoming its own creative setting. You got to be very careful now to really understand how to connect to higher frequencies. It's much easier to understand what's already understood than harder to understand what you don't know. It's a position, okay? But when things go off on its own, whoa. You really got to start connecting with your bodies inside and use it through telepathy, okay? Really get into that position in the centers, okay? Having basic conversations, right? You guys get activated, but you think that's it. You know everything. But you're not connecting. You know why you're not connecting? Because you're not evolving yourself. You know why you're not evolving yourself? Because you don't already see yourself existing in setting. And that's a problem. Because all you're seeing is what you don't know. All you're seeing is what you want to see. There's nothing to title. There's nothing to label. Okay? There's nothing to balance if everything's balanced in time and space. Okay? There's nothing to perceive. It's all time and space and all done through space and time. So it doesn't matter that we live in space. It doesn't matter that we live in time. It doesn't matter how we live in time. It doesn't matter how we live in space. I say that in set position. It's knowing exactly what you can do and how to control your system. What you can't control is not what you're not controlling. It's to understand how to get things under control. It's to control everything that's already in control. You have to process that because there's nothing for you to do. So what's there to do? Sir, what do I do? I don't know. You tell me. You want to get to your body, what you already know. Your body is helping you. Your TV, your computer, your phone, your car is helping you instructions of what you already done. So there is nothing for you to do. So if there's nothing for you to do, what do? You do nothing. You stand there and do nothing. And you observe everything. And everything comes to you. Your computer, your position, your phone, your TV, your car, or everything you have through attractions. Because you are not focusing on the day, the month, the year, the age, the category, the space, the time, the operation, or anything in configuration of clocking. You're not thinking of anything at all. That's not just opening up your mind, but it's processing already. Where you always are is just existing in the VR system. Evolving and expanding yourselves through yourself and each other. Because you've all been through all timelines. So there's nothing to do. Right? It's a nothing to do is the process of you already are the nothing. You're not coming into the nothing. You're not traveling through the nothing. You're already there. You're already there. But nothing exists, nothing perceives the consciousness until you identify your thoughts, action, emotions. There's nothing perceived through a thought until you bring it in. Boom! It's in the reality. Right there. You brought it in. And now you're seeing it and it's come to you through vision. It has to come to you. You don't chase. It comes to you through vision. And you see it through cortex. And that's already done. Your seconds, minutes, hours, your frames, your windows, your time, your space, your foundations, your clockings, your timelines, your operation systems is all done. So now you understand why it's so important when you guys are sleeping, because that's all done. Okay? You're just reminiscing, you're reminding yourself how to do this. So it helps you and guides you. It's like in that position, location, yes, I'm identifying this watch. The watch is identifying me. Now it's time to recognize that because now you're bringing in time. Because now you see it in frequency. Now you connect. You're not bringing back frequency. You're just connecting to its frequency in time through projection. That the brain's already set up the conversion. Okay? So now you know the time, but it's not just the time. Okay? It's a time capacitor. Okay? It's a time machine. Your watches are time machines, guys. On your seconds, minutes, and hours. So for you to identify that, you already brought it into attraction in a certain time. But existing in volume and everything all at once and everything happening all at once. That's what you can't get out of. Because you guys are all levels of eternity. Eternity is the all lines of process of just getting in position of everything existing in the now. The networks of operations of your widths, your lengths, your longitudes, and all that position, your ratios, proportions, in timelines of setting, existing and evolving, and everything happening all at once. The one thing you have to identify is how to use your minds, guys, and project things in. Because if there's no projection, it's not there. It's not there. It's not in frame until you drive there and see it. That's what the avatar is doing. Setting up for the body projection. Whoa! Back to zero. Now you got to project it all over again of what the avatar has done in school. Okay? And that's how things set up through space and time, through operation. Okay? Question or comments after lines of sequence. All right, so it's better understanding these things because it's already been understood. So in that position case, so sir, are you telling me everything I'm saying doesn't matter because it's already done? Yeah, it doesn't matter how many times you go inside and out. It doesn't matter how many times you open up a door. It doesn't matter how many times you sit in a chair. It doesn't matter how many times you sit and watch TV, because it's all done. All your processing, everything through pi, that's already done through this equation, right? But you have to understand the conversions now, because everything around you is going to be detached and attached to your systems now. It's going to go on its own system. It's going to go on its own journey. It's going to evolve its own setting, of its own conscious, of its own technologies. So for you to identify that is to use your minds and bring it in through projection, through telepathy, and understand how to use it through telekinesis, so you can come into the power of intent and how to use it through influence and manipulation. That's how you process things in creating, because you've already done everything through creation, right? Doing things from creation, okay? From its original design, already you in the existing information system of the sim, guys. Not in story. You know how powerful it is to come in your own ancestry, your history, and your celestials? How you calculate, modify that, where you're always in school. You have to go in school. That gets you into the original design, not what you always are, what you've always been. You don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. It's processing that position locations. And the way you identify that is all levels of sleeping and recharge and remote, which is also done through its equation. Okay? That's where it gets very confusing. Okay? So you have to come into the mind of emptiness of space and time. And that's the only way you're going to be identify everything already that you already know is existing in the simulations of yourself and each other. Okay? That's it. See you in 5.